Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and welcome to the top 10 things that I would like to see in Persona 6. So this is going to be a new series where I go over possible future iterations of video games and what I would like to see most in those future iterations of those games. So keep in mind that I have played some of the Persona games and I have watched most of them as well, so I have a decent knowledge of this when it comes to just the Persona games, but they are also my opinion, and I have not obviously 100%ed all of the Persona games, so keep that in mind, and don't kill me if I have a different opinion as yours. They are just opinions, so keep that in mind while going through with this video. And this is a top 10, not that any order of this really matters. They are just top 10 things that I would like to see. One isn't necessarily more than the other. These are just the 10 things that I would like to see most in a future Persona game. So let's get right into this. So number one, I would like for them to get rid of the long wait to meet all of the party members in your game. Now, Persona 5 Royal sort of did something like this, where characters like Haru and Makoto did pop in and out because obviously they're at the school, and I think even Takamaki and certain other characters walked by you on your way back and forth between schools, so you can actually see them or run into them. But I'm talking about something more like Akechi, where you actually see him all throughout the game until the point where you actually end up having him on your team. It makes you feel more connected to those characters, where otherwise characters like Haru, you don't really meet her till the end, so you don't really experience anything with her until the very end point of the game, so you don't really get to feel as connected to her. Certain games like Persona 3 actually fix this issue, where you are around most of the party members earlier on in the game, so only certain members in the future games end up having stuff like this. So I would like to see something like that in Persona 6, closer to what is in Persona 3, where you get to meet certain members. Obviously, meeting them all at once would be a little bit too much, and I completely can understand why you wouldn't want that, but at least somewhere towards the first quarter to like halfway through the game, it would be nice to already have most of the members, or at least have the protagonist, at least meet them at least once, where we have talked to at least each party member at least once that we would know in the future. They could still make the game to where we wouldn't know that they'd be in the party at some point, that maybe they're just supposed to be a confidant or something like that, that potentially we'll just meet in the future. That would be something that I would love to see. Moving on to number two, so this is more of a style of how I'd like the game to actually unfold in terms of its environment and its cast. I would like to see a more mature cast. I know certain people are against that and think, well, that kind of leans more towards Shin Megami Tensei, which is where Persona comes from. So I would think not quite, which brings me to my point of number three. Have it in college. I would like to see a Persona game in college instead of a game that is in high school. So obviously they'd be a little bit more mature, we'd see a different cast of characters, and they would all have even more specific fields that are going into. Each character would have, obviously certain things that they're a part of. When you get to college, you kind of know what you're there for. Obviously you could have some characters that don't quite know, and maybe you can see them work their way out and actually succeed. But I think people are definitely more specialized towards a certain field once they reach something like college. So you can see characters, just like Ryuji, he's doing his whole track thing, right? You have to help him through that. Well, you can see characters go through even deeper struggles and even deeper things because they are trying to make this their whole life passion. I think that would be interesting for a Persona game. Obviously don't have it too much like Shin Megami Tensei, have it more towards the campus, maybe have an entire campus for the characters to explore, where you could have things like restaurants and stuff like that inside of it. Maybe make the campus a sort of hub where things outside of the campus are the different little spots that you can explore and go around, and the characters could also have cars and things like that as well. That's just an idea, just an opinion. Let me know if you'd like that, or let me know, do you think that's too far away from Persona? Because I believe Persona 5 was actually supposed to be something similar to that. Just like Memento's having Morgana transform into a car, they were actually going to start using cars and order characters for Persona 5 before they scrapped the idea. Due to the tsunamis and things that happened, people started thinking that Japan might have looked weak with the things that were going on. So when they set out to make Persona 5, they had a change of heart. You could sort of say their heart was stolen back from Japan, and they wanted to make a game that showed how strong they were. And of course, where's the depth of the heart of Japan? Right in Tokyo, right in Shibuya. That explains why we have the Persona 5 we did today. They were actually on towards a different idea originally for Persona 5. So that is why you can basically flesh out why they didn't end up doing something like that. they might still have certain ideas for a college or more mature audience or cast for the next Persona game. They might still have stuff like that on the back burner. Moving on to number 4, something unrelated from that, is I would like to see a difference in background characters. I'm not sure what it is in Persona 5, where every single background character is just a typical person standing there that has black hair, and it's almost the same haircuts. There's like 6 haircuts for the guys and like 6 haircuts for the girls. Change it up a little bit. I would like to see a difference with that, but not something so much that we couldn't tell apart an NPC towards somebody who could actually be part of the cast or, you know, confidant in the future. Obviously, they do certain things like text bubbles and stuff like that, which is nice from letting us know that this is a different character. This character does help us later on. This isn't a character that is just an NPC, but sometimes it's that typical anime thing where it's like, look at the whole class of students. You can pick out 2 of them, you know, that look very, very different. They are definitely the main characters of the show. It's like, look at this whole broad range of characters. It's pretty easy to pick out who the protagonists are. Just like at the school roundup at the beginning of the game, I'm not going to spoil anything. You can obviously pick out who the main characters are because their hair color and styles are just completely different. So something I'd like to see change is maybe the graphics towards NPCs. Maybe make them a little more customizable, different hairstyles, actually different hair colors other than black and brown. I know it's supposed to be set in Japan and not really supposed to have that yet. Our main cast of characters all have pretty much different hair colors, blonde, you know, different things, blue, whatnot. Have some different characters that might look a little bit different. You know, I completely understand why maybe in the school setting they do that, but in the outside setting, definitely try and have it different. I think that would make the game stand out and look a little bit better. Moving on to number 5, it is the female male protagonist selection. I would like to be able to choose whether or not you want a male or female protagonist. Make them, you know, maybe look sort of similar, but have slight differences, obviously, depending on the gender you pick. And, you know, it's just the pro tag. There isn't a ton of voice lines and stuff like that. The only bad thing is with the selection, they have to record more lines and do more text to be able to say he or she. You know, they could just say they or it towards a character, you know, something neutral, so it doesn't actually matter depending on the gender. But I would like to see something like this. They did do this in previous Persona games where they actually had or added on a whole new protagonist, which is a female, and you got to actually choose whether or not you wanted to do this. This has happened in past Persona games. Certain things on this list that I have are things just already in other Persona games, or they've already touched on this. Just like how, you know, the long wait for party members in Persona 3 was not really a thing. Certain things like that were also fixed in past iterations of Persona games. They're not necessarily fixed, but they were touched on already in past Persona games. So seeing something like that in a future game is not something that is totally unlikely. It's something we could potentially see. I think they like to take the best from the past games and put them into their new games. So I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing something like that, especially if a lot of people are talking about it. Moving on to number 7, I would like the party to actually have romance acknowledgement. So you could romance a character and the rest of the party acts like you guys aren't a thing. It's like, you know, hey, we're dating, you know, stop making weird dialogue options toward her. Maybe do something like that, or where maybe even certain characters might pick on you judging who you picked. Maybe that would be pretty interesting, where, you know, you pick a character that looks kind of crazy or acts kind of crazy and they think, what are you crazy for dating them? Or, you know, you date an older doctor, or you date a teacher, a romantic teacher. It'd be kind of interesting to see dialogue options where certain characters might talk to you a certain way based off of the romance options you picked. I think that would be pretty interesting. I would like to see something like that where they would actually acknowledge that. Maybe it doesn't affect gameplay a whole lot, but just some acknowledgement would be pretty interesting, or open up some new dialogue options for other characters. I think that would be pretty cool and pretty nice to see. It totally seems like they just kind of, you know, scrape that out. Or if you're dating multiple characters at the same time, maybe have them kind of conflict and be like, yo, why are you hanging out with that person so much? What's going on there? I think that would be kind of cool, kind of interesting at the same time, and would be a little bit more realistic. Obviously, it's a game, it's not supposed to be super realistic, but I still think that would be funny and would bring up some pretty funny dialogue options, I think, in the future. Also, allowing Morgana, he pretty much sees everything. Wouldn't he be saying what's going on? I've always kind of wondered that. wouldn't he kind of acknowledge or know certain things that are going on? I mean, yes, when you go out and hang out with them, Morgana all of a sudden disappears out of your book bag, but I don't know, you could just say that Persona went off on his own while you did your own thing. But even if you did that, he'd still know you're going off with that person. So he would eventually know in the future what's going on. So that would be something I would like to see. Moving on to number 8 is have the main persona of the character be somewhat more relevant. Too many times, you know, obviously your main persona does have somewhat of a link to your character, but in other games like Persona 4, they don't quite really resemble the character a whole lot. I've looked at certain personas and they don't quite fit. And whenever you get into the metaverse and you level up to like level 5 or 6, you're basically going to already get rid of your first main persona. That's the biggest thing I've seen on Reddit and other places. They're like, should I get rid of the first persona? Like, isn't that the main character's sort of thing? It's all over the box art and all the artwork. You see him with that persona. Like, should I get rid of him? Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, the game really wants you to do that. You can eventually just buy them back later in the catalog or whatever. So you really don't need them, and you basically get rid of them right away. Certain games have certain things where you can actually go back and do that, but I would like there to be more relevance. Maybe keep that persona around to do other certain things, maybe certain attacks for you once you do no longer, you know, need them. Maybe do something interesting like that. Instead of making them a persona that you can actually fuse and get rid of, make them a persona that sort of always stays with you, or in certain ways maybe you can bring that persona out every once in a while to do certain actions instead. I'm not sure how exactly it would work, but something along those lines where they could come out and do maybe an ultimate move during gameplay, or maybe during all-out attacks you use your main big persona. Just seeing that persona, the main one, come back every once in a while would be pretty nice. They promote the main persona so much, yet it's honestly the one you use the very least throughout the entire game, I feel like, most of the time, because you switch basically right away. And throughout the whole game, you switch out personas so much. None of them really tend to stay, yet Arsene in Persona 5 seems to be the one that's connected to Joker so much, which I think he looks cool next to Joker. So I would like to see how Arsene could be more relevant and maybe do certain things like that throughout the game. Number 9, I would like to talk about metaverse travel. So, something that I think that somewhat disrupts the game is how hard it is to get to the metaverse sometimes. Obviously, if you're battling or going through mementos, every time you hit a save point, you can, just go back to the center and then go to the metaverse immediately. What I would like for there to do is just be able to go straight into the metaverse from your main menu. And I mean this from all the games. That would be very nice to do, where you could just trade personas and do certain things like that at just about any time. Obviously not to where it would actually disrupt the game, so maybe during places where you can save, no matter where you are, if you can save the game, you can go straight to the metaverse or whatever, and you can actually change personas out and fuse them and whatnot. Just being able to quickly do that would be nice. I know a lot of times where I just realize, oh, I'm halfway through this dungeon, I need to change my personas, they're actually getting weak. It'd be nice if I could just kind of do it on the fly, or do it towards my nearest save point, instead of having to go back or certain things like that to be able to do it. Being able to do it at home, where Joker lives, at the Cafe LeBlanc, going somewhere like there and just being able to just quickly do it there would be nice, instead of having to go outside and go to a place where then I can go through a load screen to get to the metaverse, and then I can go and then fuse personas and then I can head home. It kind of just seems like too much. It'd be nice to just sort of cut half of that out and just be able to do it at save points or save places, because I don't see how that could really disrupt the game. Just being able to do that would be nice. I understand the challenge, so maybe not in palaces, you can't do that necessarily. If that does affect the challenge of the palace or something like that, then I could understand that, but I don't know. I think that would be something that would be nice if Persona 5 Royal didn't change the fact that you had guns. Your gun would actually only have one clip per dungeon. I would have had that on the list, and I would have emphasized that was number 1, because that was my biggest gripe from Persona 5. But let's move on to the last point that had nothing to do with anything. I'm rambling at this point. Is modern releases and localization. That has to be, without a doubt, the biggest complaint that I have seen from the whole Persona series, Persona fandom, the whole community, even Shin Megami Tensei people, just everywhere. Atlus is kind of bad at doing PR. I mean, it looks good, it's great, but time-wise, it's a little bit strained. They don't fully say exactly what they mean all the time. it's kind of interesting how they do things, but it would be nice to see localizations and have a, you know, more face-to-face talk with the community and the people working at Atlus would be nice. We asked Persona 5 on Switch, we got Persona 4 Golden on Steam. It's exactly what I'm talking about. It's very good that we got Persona 4 Golden on Steam, but it's like, are they listening? We don't really know. They don't quite give the best feedback back and forth. We don't quite get much back from them. It's a lot of us talking at them, and they kind of just pick and choose things and do stuff like that. They did very big polls where they learned that lots of people wanted to see a lot of different Persona games ported to a lot of different things, which I think is great, and I'm so happy they're being ported. Persona 4 Golden, honestly, on Steam was something that I'd rather have than have Persona 5 on Switch. I know a lot of people are talking about that, and just hardware limitations, I'm not sure I'd even want it on there, to be completely honest with you, but it would be nice to get more news on what they're doing or what they are actually working on. I mean, we had Persona 4 Golden release literally a week after somebody said something about it. It's like, what? Why couldn't they release a trailer a month before? Were they that close to cutting off the, you know, game from being able to be on Steam? It would be nice if we had something a little earlier on. It's not like, you know, at Atlus, they haven't gave us news about a new game a whole year or two before it released. We know that's true, but just having a nice little timeline or a tweet or, you know, a 10-second clip being like, this is coming out in a month, or we're working on this currently, would actually be very nice. And getting down to localizations, Persona 5 did very good at this. I believe it didn't come out, or Persona 5 Royal did good at this, sorry. Persona 5 was pretty bad, and all the other games were pretty bad at localization. It's fully understandable, especially with how they were a smaller studio at that time. I give them all the benefit of the doubt, but seeing as how they're getting bigger and bigger, it would be nice to see better localization for games, at least in a timely manner. I can understand a whole month difference, but years to half a year, it's pretty crazy to see that, where most people would just see the whole game in Japanese before it even comes out. And Persona 5 Scramble, obviously, I think they would have had that game out by now, but because of a certain thing, a certain, you know what, not going to say it because YouTube's going to gun me down, I believe that is why we do not actually have the localizations for that, because they needed to do so much voice work for that game. If not, I think we would have seen it by now. But yeah, that's a lot to go off of. Sorry if I sort of rambled on about things. I'm going to be better at making these types of videos, but those are the top 10 things that I can think of that I've sat down time and time again and sort of think that I would like to see in a Persona game. Obviously, these are my opinions, so it doesn't mean that I think these are the best possible things for that game. They're just things that I would want to see, and a lot of times with games, sometimes even know what you want to see. So I think I'm going to end that here, guys. Please like, comment, subscribe for more content. Let me know down in the comments below, what would you like to see out of another Persona game? Or hell, maybe even a Shin Megami Tensei game. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. And as always, I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.